Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of the World with Nate podcast. This podcast was created to shed light on some of the stories and lessons that we accrue during our time here. My hope is that those stories will bring us all together in this thing that we all call life. My hope for this podcast episode is that you find it both enlightening and enjoyable. So, sit back and relax. I want you to enjoy the ride. Special thanks to my friend 𝙀𝙼𝙟𝙪 of Hawkeye Storage and Consulting for helping me bring Season 2 of The World with Nate to YouTube. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 2 of The World with Nate. Today, I'm joined by a special guest that follows suit for my appreciation of the military in November. Josh Zuck was a guy who I grew up with in my hometown. He was a few years older than me, and he joined the Iowa National Guard. Today, I wanted to have him on, chat about that time, how it influenced his life, the time after, and his current perception of the military and how things are going in life as an adult who is now out of the military for quite a few years.
Right.
So, being that you went in 11 Bravo, what is that?
11 Bravo. So 11 Bravo, for those civilians out there, it's infantry.
Okay.
That's kind of your ground forces.
Yes.
Right? So I joined, would have been April 2002. So that's when I signed that dotted line, right? But it wasn't until October that I actually shipped out. So I had a few months there before I shipped out, but yeah.
The reason I bring that up, 11 Bravo, when I get the picture, it's like the Call of Duty soldier, the guy who's knocking down doors, is carrying the M40 or the M60, a badass dude. And I would think he would have a coffee with whiskey in it. What are you drinking today, Josh?
Man,
Not to throw shade or talk shit.
No, I'm proud of this. I don't care. It goes down smooth. I got a nice chai latte in the cup here. And, I'll walk in. I teach PE right now over in Jessup, right? And I've got anything from preschool to 12th grade. And I've got 4 high school classes throughout the day. And I start off the day with high school classes. So I'll bust through the door, and I've got my cup with some pumpkin spice in there or something, and I'll walk in, and those kids will look at me like, Mr. Zook, man, you are so basic. I'm like, oh, come on, kids. I'm not basic. I said, let me just put this in perspective for you kids. I said, hey, you guys ever been to war before? I'm like, no, Mr. Zook, never been to war before. I said, all right, I'm going to tell you a story here. On Al-Assad Air Base, back before we'd roll out the wire, there was this place called Green Bean Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Green Bean
I
Coffee.
am familiar.
Familiar?
I've been there. I've been exactly where you're
Good
talking
deal.
about.
I'd never heard of Green Bean until I was overseas.
Same.
So, back here it's Starbucks and Caribou and all that. But I was not a coffee connoisseur before deployment. But when you're on deployment, it's either you're gonna smoke, right, or you're gonna chew,
or dip.
And I didn't really want to do any one of those things. I'm kind of a health nut of sorts, So I was like, well, I guess it's caffeine for me.
Some habit is coming.
Yeah, some habit's coming. So, like I said, not well versed in coffee, so I'm not gonna go in and get the dark stuff at the time. Now hook me up, but back then, no way. So I'd roll in, I'd get some spiced chai latte, and I'd hop in that Humvee right there in the commander's seat. Tell the gunner to lock and load, throw some hard rock on, and roll out that freaking wire, right? So when those kids look at me and tell me I'm basic, I just look at them and say, how basic does that sound?
Hell yeah. I love it, dude.
We kind of go on a class. So it's good stuff. So I'm going to sit here and enjoy you can pretend that it's got a little whiskey in there.
See, I've never tasted it, so I can't talk too much trash. I probably like it.
It's November. It's the season, right?
Right. It's
a seasonal thing. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. I like it. No, so that gets us quite into the story. You joined the Iowa Guard.
Right.
What does that look like, and what are some reasoning behind you joining?
Right. So I was in college at the time. The reason for me joining was real simple. I was in school. I wasn't a great student. I mean, D's to get degrees is about the motto that I lived by at the time. So I was kind of looking for a way out or something, not necessarily a way out, but just to change a pace. School was kind of boring for me. And then our world shook, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, 9/11 happened. And at that moment, I felt just kind of a light switch flip. It was kind of a reason for a lot of people joining at the time. Heck, I was roomed up with 3 other guys from Manchester, 911 Maplewood Drive in Waterloo, Iowa. And three of us out of the 4 ended up joining the military.
Wow, that's
It was
powerful.
something that was a trend at the time, right? That was a huge reason as to my joining, but it took some time to settle in. Obviously it wasn't until April of 2002 that I finally signed. So I did some thoughtful thinking over it and some praying before I actually did join. But when it was time to join, man, I jumped in, but 9/11, 9/11 happened. That was a big reason. And then that combined with me just not doing well in school.
Yeah.
Those two worlds collided, and it was the right move for me at the time.
Yeah. Do you remember the conversations? So, I mean, for me and a lot of the stories you hear, the parents, what was it like when you told your parents? And especially, we're kicking off. It's, at the time, that's war.
Right. You know what's going on.
Yeah.
You sign that line. You know what you're getting in for. My dad, huge role model in my life.
Prior service?
Not prior service, but he was a police officer in my
prior
childhood.
service means nothing to me these days.
No.
I build my character of a man on a lot more than military service.
Right.
That is just a question for maybe that was why you joined. I don't know.
Right. No. And I had some grandparents that were prior service, but really my grandparents lived so far away, I didn't get to know them.
Yeah.
That wasn't the reason. It wasn't until later in life where we had commonalities that I started learning about their service. But at that time, I knew nobody in the service. And if you'd told me in high school that I was going to join the service, I said, you're crazy. It ain't happening. Yeah. But those conversations with my father was probably the biggest influence into me waiting as long as I did to join. With all of his experiences in the police force, he saw some stuff. Mm-hmm. And hindsight, I know why he wanted me to think on it, because he battles demons every day with stuff that he saw in the force and stuff that he dealt with, and he knew the time that we were going into. He's well versed on the political world, and that's kind of his gig. He knew that I would have those demons to battles after the fact, and you know what? He wasn't wrong. I certainly do, but I'm so thankful for his message leading up to that point. Like, hey, I know you're feeling patriotic in this moment.
Hell yeah!
But Josh, sit on it for a while. Think about it. If you're doing it because you feel patriotic and because you're doing poorly in school, those aren't good enough reasons.
Absolutely. That's amazing advice. Yeah.
So I did. I thought about it prayerfully. I'm a faith-filled guy. And I thought about it prayerfully for a really long time. And it came to the point where it's like, nope, this is happening. And it wasn't a day later after my mind, made that up, and I was calling a number that I found on some random wall somewhere. I don't know. I called the Army recruiter and like, hey, come on over. I'm signing up. It was the easiest job that a recruiter ever had, probably.
Yeah.
Like, here you go, man.
Yep, I'm in.
So my wife and I, at the time of me signing up, I hadn't yet met my wife.
Okay.
So it wasn't until after the fact that I met my wife, and I remember the conversations that she had with her mom. Yeah. Like, hey, this guy, he's going to be joining the military, he's already signed the line. And I remember those conversations you hear now. She's like, yeah, I went and told my mom I was going to be dating this guy. And she's like, what are you thinking? Yeah. You really need to take a long, hard look at this and realize that these relationships oftentimes don't last.
It's tough.
And you're going to be in for some hardship. He's going to be gone. We didn't realize that I'd be gone for 3 out of the first 5 years that we'd be together. But for some reason, man, she stuck with it. She must have... I don't know. I really liked.
Saw something deep inside.
I don't know what, but dang.
Yeah. That advice from your dad to have that is important.
I'm such a blessed man with the parents that I have, and people tell me every single day, like, man, your parents are saints, and you know what? They truly are, and I can't thank them enough for the upbringing that I had. I lived we weren't spoiled. We were comfortable though. I knew I'd wake up in the morning and I knew I was loved, and that was enough for me.
So, hell yeah, that's strong too. You chose the Army. That was your first choice, and you chose 11 Bravo. Like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I know. We talked before we came in here, and I know you said sounds pretty ballsy, but really it was just
didn't
naive,
feel that way,
right?
When you were that young.
I am an adrenaline junkie. Mm-hmm. I really am. I do a lot of crazy stuff, and I see, you see those commercials, like people jumping out of planes, and half of it's like special forces, Navy SEAL stuff that I never.
This many people,
right? That many people do it, but that's what I saw, and that's what I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do.
They got you.
Like I said, college was boring, so I needed to spice up the life a little bit, and honestly, it was intriguing to me. Like that's what I want to do, and I wanted to be in it. Why I didn't do straight Army, I don't know. I did National Guard side, But in the end, might as well have done Army because we were deployed for those 3.
The whole time.
Deployed the whole time. So
that at that point in time, if you went in guard, or it didn't matter. Guard, reserve, you're all going, suckers. It's just a matter of time.
Yep. Didn't matter if you were a nasty girl or if you were
when I got over there in 2009, they were letting people with low felonies and neck tattoos and grills and shit. And I got in country in Iraq, and I saw some of these people at the chow hall that were 11 Bravos, no offense, and I'm like,
ooh, yeah.
This is real. This shit's real.
And I don't think I'd do it any different either. You know, I wasn't ever a test taker. How I am in the school system teaching youth right now is beyond me, but I am. Man, I was an awful test taker, and so to take those ASVABs and stuff, and get a high placement where I was getting a job that was something other than infantry. I'll be honest, probably wasn't happening at that time. Okay. I was not a confident person with my studies. I was very confident in my physical abilities. And I was very confident to put myself out there. And so that was appealing to me.
And that helps in that career field.
Absolutely.
That can bring you to the top real quick. Hell yeah. So you entered into, where'd you do basic training at then? Because I don't understand how that all works for the Army side.
11 Bravo basic training would be Fort Benning, Georgia.
Oh, nice. It's very beautiful. I've been there actually.
Yeah, so Fort Benning, Georgia, like I said, shipped out in October. I knew I wanted to wait a little bit because I wasn't really about the thought of going in the middle of summer to Georgia.
You're smart.
So
You're
I
smart
waited.
To have that hindsight.
So I waited. I had nothing else going on for me, So I waited a little bit, and I wanted to get in shape. And I don't know that it was necessary to do what I did prior to basic training, because I'm telling you, I was in probably the best shape of my life going to basic training. And then I got there. And what happened?
You can say you lost 50 pounds of muscle and you got shrunk and probably had to run a ton.
Yeah, you get there and you sit around. Do you have like a holdover station?
Working? No.
So we got right there and I'm thinking like, hey, this is it. We're on the bus. We're going. This is it. And then they take us to this place called 30th AG.
Not familiar.
30th AG. It's a holdover spot.
Just waiting.
You're not doing anything. I'll bet I was there for, I think it was probably 2 weeks. I was at 30th AG. And you know what they give you at 30th AG?
Clean?
A bunk bed.
Oh yeah, that's it.
And maybe and they outfit you with your gear, right? Otherwise you sit. They don't let you exercise because I think they're afraid you're going to get hurt or something. And I also think it's a tactic, right? These guys are going to come down here and we're going to smoke them and they're going to be out of shape.
That's true.
After 2 weeks of doing nothing, they fed you burgers, fries.
I don't know anything about all that.
This was, and I didn't know anything about it. I wish somebody would have told me because I'd been under prep. At 30th AG, I'll bet we lost 3 people before we even got to basic training. Because they went all gung-ho ready to go. You know the type. And then
fizzle.
They fizzle. They can't do it. They can't do it. So I got there and then finally
that was a shock, I'm sure.
Oh, it was a huge
when
shock.
you're preparing yourself, sharpening yourself.
So I spend this, 4 months I have before I deploy and I'm getting in the best shape of my life. Then we go down range. I tell people I got out of shape. At basic training. I really did. I came back in worse shape, less muscle mass, and just I came back different. I could run further.
But fast as hell too, probably.
Yeah, I was a different person when I came back.
No, yeah. I can attest to that. I look back at pictures. I'm like 200 pounds right now. 160 in basic training, but I was fast as hell. My mile and a half time was like 9 minutes.
Sign
them
up.
No way. It was like Skeletor, It's terrible. But no eating and fast and moving everywhere.
Right. Yeah. So we got downrange though, and then it's
so being guard. You went straight to basic and then back to your unit and then straight tasked to deploy. Explain that to me.
Yeah, it's basically the way that it happened for me.
And this is different for everyone, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. It's a different experience for everybody, So with National Guard, you go through the same training as regular Army personnel,
active duty Army.
Yep, and you're in the same exact place with all of them. So I think in our platoon, for example, we might have had 6 National Guard. And the rest, so you're talking 40 plus were regular Army, right?
Active duty.
But you're all together, and really, after that first day, nobody knows what the hell you are.
No,
right?
There's no differentiating between active guard and reserve until after tech school or after AIT.
You don't got a mark on your forehead. You're all in it together. So you go through the basic training experience, and then actually for mine, I went through basic, and it coincided perfectly with Christmas Exodus.
Oh, nice.
So I got to come home for 2 weeks. And then I went back for AIT, the individual training. So then I had another month and a half of that or so, and then graduated, came home. And actually, this is kind of crazy. When I was in basic, we had no communication back home. I think times have changed now. and there's a little more communication that's allowed back home, but we had zilch. We had nothing. So when I got home, my parents, my girlfriend at the time, they knew more about what was in store for me than I did. They're like, hey,
that's wild to hear.
You're going to be going. You're going.
It has changed, Josh.
It has.
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, because you were new to war. You know.
Yeah. Right.
My first trip in 2009, and then my last trip in 2014, just vastly different, dude. Vastly different.
It's good in a lot of ways.
It's good in a lot of ways. It had to get better. War's terrible.
We had modern warfare that we were going into, and we were still doing all the woodland tactics.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah. Behind the curve. Way behind the curve.
Way behind the curve.
Yeah.
You get to basic, and it's those old field manuals, you know, with the stick figure drawings and stuff, and maybe they still use some of that stuff. But I'm like, what is this? Where's all the high speed stuff that I saw on the commercials? You know, I just want to step back in time. What is this?
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I came home, it was, hey, you got warning orders for it was Sinai Peninsula, Egypt.
Yeah.
So that's where I was. My first deployment was to the Sinai Peninsula.
What do you remember thinking? Like, I'm going to Egypt. As an Iowa kid, I know what I thought when I first got my first set of orders that was overseas. This is mind blowing,
right?
To even think.
Yeah, yeah. No, mind you, but so now I'm in love, right?
Yeah.
I've met my girlfriend.
Okay.
I wasn't in love when I signed that dotted line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now I'm like, oh, was it the right decision? You know, but I never thought twice about it. Like, it is what it is. You know, it's a decision I made. Here we go. But it left a little bigger hole in the heart. You know?
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, so when I got home, I just thought, hey, here we go. We're going to Egypt. What in the world is in Egypt that I'm going to do? You know, so we'd had a couple people in our company who had actually been there prior. Not with our company, but with some other units. And so they kind of knew what to expect. Yeah. But it was peacetime. Mm-hmm. It was peacetime. And
their experience in Egypt was peacetime.
And so was mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so was mine. Now,
gotcha.
I think recent times, not quite so much. But my experience was peacetime.
Yeah.
There were times where there was stuff going on, obviously. You know, you got the Gaza Strip there.
Yep.
And there were two different camps that we were on, South Camp and North Camp, and both of them were peacetime. But North Camp was a little closer to Gaza Strip. Yeah. And I remember visiting that camp for about a month at one point during the deployment. We can get into that later. But about a month during the deployment, and you could actually hear the bombs going off.
Yeah.
You know, so you're close to it, but it might as well have been a semi truck backfiring. Like it was that far away. Nobody, you know, so it was no threat. But yeah, on South Camp there was nothing there. But we'd be so on South Camp it would be like the place where you're kind of off duty. You're training to go back out to your remote sites.
Yeah. When
you get out to the remote sites, that's where you're on duty. So you're 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. Those 3 weeks on those remote sites, you're there. There was an Egyptian-Israeli peace treaty, and we were just kind of keeping tabs on everybody to make sure that nobody was going into the zones they shouldn't go. Right. You know, not flying in the no-fly zones, and not going in the. So we were basically tattletales. You know, like we're sitting there, we're peacekeepers.
That's all right by me too.
Yeah, but nothing ever happened.
Yeah,
nothing. We were there. We were working out. We were getting swole.
Yeah,
we were having our meal replacement shake shipped over, and you know, playing cards and playing video games, and you were 8-hour shifts, and you were 2 hours in a watchtower, and then out of that watchtower, and then
rest of the time was yours.
Yeah, rest of the time's yours.
Yeah.
So on a remote site,
right?
What do you do?
Yeah, work out. That's about it.
Yeah, that was the Egypt deployment in a nutshell.
And that year was what?
That would have been.
I know it's hard to look back at those dates.
Yeah, 2002, 2003. Right.
So you said you had fresh love. How'd you guys communicate? There was probably no FaceTime.
No FaceTime.
Well, yeah, what did you do?
No FaceTime. Egypt was, when you're out there on the remote site, it was nothing. Right. There's nothing out there. So you'd get mail like every, it'd be 10 days later, you know, the wife would, or the girlfriend at the time would write the letter. 10 days later, it makes it to you.
Yep.
Which was always, I loved it.
Mail call.
You love getting that mail call. And once they started coming in, then it's daily. It's just they're all 10 days behind.
Yep. You're behind the power curve.
Yeah, you're behind the curve then. But if we were back on South Camp, they had phone banks. So you'd get your little, I think like AT&T phone cards with like 250 minutes loaded on it, dude. But it's long distance calls. So you get there, it's like, you have 10 minutes remaining. Like, what the heck is this? Can you just make an exception maybe for the military personnel? What's going on here?
Yeah.
But
that got better too. There was a toll-free line by some rich American who put like gazillions of minutes on it. So you could go tap in from your base and use that. Dude, it was a game changer.
Yeah.
Game changer. Why would you not have that access?
Right. But I mean, do you remember waiting in lines?
Yeah.
To get the
I remember skipping it and being in love and pissed and skipping it, being like, I got to eat tonight.
Right.
The chow hall closes.
Yep. So you're respectful to other people who are behind you.
Hell
right?
yeah.
You know, I mean,
absolutely.
You have to be. You get those people in front of you that's like, what is going on?
Come on, Terry.
Come on, let's go. Like you got 45 minutes. So I'd try to, you know, I'd call home, and usually it was daily when I was back there on South Camp, because it was, what else are you doing?
You could.
You know, you could wait in that line for 45 minutes if you needed to. And that was refreshing to me to hear from home.
Yeah.
So I would call usually my girlfriend at the time. I'd call her every day. And then I'd call my parents, like, you know, they're low-class citizens, you know.
I just did the same shit, so I feel terrible saying it now. She's my wife's, and yours is your wife, so it fucking worked out for us.
Right. But
dang,
at
we've
the
been
time,
on the right horse.
like, oh man, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. You're gonna talk to Beth at some point today, right? But I'd call them like once a week, and then I don't know, my sister. Oh boy, I probably called her maybe once a month.
Sorry, sis. I love you. I love you to death.
Oh man. So yeah, that was the communication. No internet. No Skype. No, nothing. It was phone.
Right.
So
long time ago in that regard. We've came a long time, thankfully. So Egypt came to a done. You came home. What was reception like for you when you came home?
Pretty, I don't know. Nothing really. I mean, we came home and good to see everybody.
Yeah.
But there wasn't like a reception, right?
Parade.
Like you have your immediate family members. I'm trying to remember. I think we just met at the Armory in 𝙀𝙼𝙟𝙪 at the time. That's where we were located. Bravo Company was out of 𝙀𝙼𝙟𝙪. They since relocated to Iowa City, I believe. But anyway, I think we met at the Armory. We had like a little reception, you know, with a little dog and pony show to talk about all the statistics of stuff that we didn't do, and that was basically it, you know. And then you're back
free to go.
So, yeah, free to go. See you later.
Okay. So what did free to go look like for Josh at that point in time?
At that point in time,
because it was guard, so you were home.
Free to go meant when I was deployed, I had nothing back home to pay for. No house payment.
Yeah.
No car payment. Like I had a decent amount of money in my bank account, you know. Yeah. I wasn't going down to the pawn shop to pawn off my stereo to make it to college, you know. Like I was able to go buy a set of nice golf clubs, and I went out and I'm gonna be Tiger Woods, right? You know? So I went out and golfed for a couple months, and then I finally decided, you better get stuff together here. You better go back to school. So then I was at Hawkeye prior to enlisting, and then I decided I'm gonna go back, get my degree, because now I have kind of this new vision of where I want to go, and it may not include the military for the rest of my life. So I've got this girlfriend who is way smarter than me, and she's going to hold me accountable. So I did. I went back to school to the University of Northern Iowa to pursue a teaching degree at the time. I didn't know it'd be physical education. It was elementary ed at the time. So went back, pursued a teaching degree, and that turned into physical education. But yeah, then it was another year, and then we got some more orders. Yeah. You know, so.
Yeah, and those orders were to where?
Those orders were to Iraq. So we got kind of those warning orders. You know, I remember being in that first year of school, kind of back, ready to kind of do that whole school life. Did you feel like a
civilian? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, really. Yeah, I think I did. Actually, at that time, I think I did. I was ready to. Like, I'd never been ready in my life to sit down and just study. And I was kind of ready for that next chapter at that point, but we all knew there was going to come a time where we'd be getting deployed, right? So I did fall back into that civilian life, because really that Egypt deployment was peacetime. Yeah. And it didn't really change me as a person at that point in time. I did grow in confidence. I did get to bond with brothers on that deployment who I would have to bond a lot more with in future deployments. Yeah. But it didn't change me like deep down inside, right? So I came back and kind of fell back into things, no problem. But yeah.
And then Iraq.
Then Iraq. So we got
and what
those
year
orders.
Was that?
That would have been 2005 to 7.
So if you're familiar with,
we were gone forever.
What's going on?
Holy smokes.
in the world and in the Middle East at that point in time, it's hot and heavy in Iraq.
It's kind of building again, right? Yeah. Like it's at the point where that initial invasion is over, but it's consistent hot. And it's building. It's getting hot again, right? So we knew we would be deploying we didn't know where. I don't remember actually knowing where we were going to be exactly, or even the mission that we were going to be doing until like month 5 at Camp Shelby, Mississippi.
So that was your build-up and training prior.
So we
pre-deployment is what we called it in the Air Force.
Yeah, I suppose that's what we call it too. You know, it's just that time where you're learning all the skills and stuff, but we didn't know for what.
Right.
We did all kinds of different stuff, you know. But we were at Camp Shelby, Mississippi for 6 months, right after Hurricane Katrina. Actually,
damn.
We rolled in there. It was a mess.
Yeah,
it was a mess. But yeah, I rolled into Camp Shelby.
Now you say 6 months.
That's a lot. Months. That's a whole deployment, right?
That's some shit that people forget is all the training and the TDYs, temporary duties and stuff that you got to do to be up to speed, to be an active team member on a deployment.
Right. You know, active Army, that's your job, right? You're
every
training
day.
That stuff every day.
Yeah.
But as a National Guard soldier,
you got to get refreshed on just the basics and then up to par with what's going on.
Right.
Quick.
Right. 6 months is a little excessive. That's a little
for a high-speed person, maybe.
Oh, goodness. That's a little
not
excessive.
for somebody who's eating rocks, Josh. Right. And crayons.
Oh, man. But yeah, we got there. We were there for 6 months and then finally, you know, shipped out to Al-Assad Air Base, Iraq, Anbar Province, that area. So we were there for, get this, we were there for over 15 months.
Yeah, it's disgusting to hear.
We were there for a long time.
Why? What was a typical deployment for the Army supposed to be?
So typical deployment, we were going in planning on a year.
Yeah.
We were planning on a year. 2 months prior to our demob, we got orders saying, hey, troop surge, you know, you guys are extended.
Yeah.
3 months past your demob date, which is still 2 months away. But you're starting to get excited at that point.
Yeah.
You're ready to go home.
Right.
And you hear that. Man, you want to talk about a kick to the balls. That was so hard. I had a wedding planned for July 7th, 2007, 7/7/7. It was going to be a fairy tale, right? We were all excited. We have everything rented. My wife had been working so hard. And
while you're gone,
call home while I'm gone. She's doing everything. She's a rock star. She'd do everything while I'm gone anyway. But I mean, she's just the way she is. But yeah, then you get that. And it's like
soul crushing, right?
It is. And the morale for everybody down the tubes.
Instantaneous.
Instantaneous. And and what else? How else are you going to respond? Like, oh, I guess we're here for another 3 months. Let's go get it. No, I mean, at that point we'd lost 2 people.
Yeah.
Right. And thankfully that's all we lost while we were there. But we lost a lot of people to injury. We'd lost a lot of people mentally. We'd lost people. And now you're telling us we're 2 months. We can feel it. We can reach it. We're 2 months from going home. And you want us to stay in this environment for another 3? Like, all right, our tactic kind of changed at that point, right? Like, I remember being on missions and you get out of the vehicle and you kind of walk around a little bit, you know, and you got to take a leak. You get out, you take a leak, you know, you get back in the vehicle. But that's where your protection is, in the vehicle. So they told you to stay in that thing as much as possible, right? You don't get out and just go up and inspect something. That's don't be dumb. Don't be a hero. But at that time, it's like, all right, you got to take a leak. I'm not getting out of the vehicle anymore. Give me that water bottle. I'm staying in this thing, you know? So it's just everything changed and it kind of handcuffs you. You're not thinking straight anymore. And it took up until about a couple months before our new demob date where people are starting to kind of feel better and all and stuff, you know? So, yeah.
It's a very hard pill to swallow. As someone who has also got extended,
okay,
it ruins the people.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. It's so funny that you say this stuff because I was planning a wedding and doing the same. Yeah, my first trip to Iraq.
Feel for you, man.
Yeah, thank God my wife's a rock star just like yours because she did it all.
So hard.
Yeah.
So hard.
And then when you get that news, it's so soul crushing and you just can't understand it. And our reasoning, so active duty Air Force, we were supposed to be relieved by a guard or a reserve unit and they couldn't fill the tasking. It's like that stuff happens.
Yep.
Like what do you expect?
Right.
Big picture, it's hard to see when you're 19.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah.
And when when you said, you know, when that news hits, perceptions change, attitudes change, the way you operate changes.
Right.
When you're in an environment where you can get killed, you can't have that, not even for 1 second.
No, you can't. You have to have a clear conscience. You have to be able to do exactly what you're trained to do. And now we're not. And you know what happens, you know, if you second guess yourself. You start second guessing yourself and
people get hurt.
Yeah, that dangerous stuff that you're trained to do
becomes
more dangerous when
Absolutely.
you're not able to do it anymore. But yeah.
Yeah, so I can definitely relate to that, as well as a lot of other military people in that side of that time, because that crap happens so much. It's that jerking of the when you're going, when you're staying. You never know. My friends who had been on a lot of deployments before me, like you were saying, the mentorship that you got from those people who were in Egypt before you, the people that, if I can say anything to anybody, find a subject matter expert and just take everything in.
Pick their brain.
Because you do have to worry about this stuff. You don't have to worry about this stuff, you know?
Right.
And that saved me from worrying myself nervous to death before even going.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah. So when you said that, that really hit me, that whole finding a mentor who has done it before you. And that can be applied to everything, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a reason it's set up the way that it is.
Yeah,
you know, those people, you got to have time in. You might have somebody who's smarter than you,
right?
You know, or you might be smarter than that. But if you don't got that time in,
right? If you've never experienced the things you've never experienced,
yeah, it doesn't really matter anymore, does it?
No,
you can be as
not at all.
educated as you want to be, but until you've actually been in it,
yeah,
you better have somebody you can look up to.
Yeah, and those experiences, like you said, they're so hard and so changing. And thank God, the loss of life from that deployment was 2.
Oh,
but we are talking about things. Now we're talking about the effects of burn pit trauma and things that have happened 15 years ago are affecting veterans now.
Yep.
And it's just
From
mind-boggling.
exposure in it. And here we are exposed longer.
Drinking water, even the water you drink or whatever.
Who knows?
Yeah, we never know. Cost of service, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Unfortunately. So the first trip to Iraq, a doozy. Yeah.
First and only trip. Yeah,
Thank
thankfully.
goodness.
That was kind of what.
That's worth 5.
Gosh, by the time we got done, I'd only had, like I said, that was 5 years at that point. And when I signed my contract, it was a 6x2.
Okay.
So like a 6-year active duty National Guard contract is like those, you're drilling once a month, you're doing your 2-week annual training, and that's kind of the active portion with it. Then that inactive portion of 2 years is, hey, you don't have to actively do this stuff anymore, but you're still on the hook if we need you, right?
Yeah.
So by that point though, I'm 5 years through.
Yeah.
I get home, like, gosh, I excelled in my field. And I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the people. But at that point, I'm a family guy, and I'm ready to start my family. So for me, that's when it was time.
You said the patriotism, the light switch. Was that same moment when you got out? You knew you needed to get out?
Yeah. And when I joined, I joined for different reasons. I'm a different person now, and it was the same thing, that light switch. And that's kind of my life in a nutshell. It doesn't matter what it is. It's that light, it's switched, and it's time to move on to that next chapter. It's the same way that I found a physical education job. I owned a business when I got back and did roofing and gutters and stuff, and I was on top of a lady's house and just so happened to be the president of the school board at Jessup Schools. She's like, "What are you doing roofing this house?" She's like, "You should just go apply for the job up there. There's an opening right now." So I did, and they offered me the position, and it's, again, another light switch, like, oh, maybe I just move on. And that's just how I've always operated. So, yeah. And thank goodness for good people in my life, because those are the good people that flip that switch for me.
Yeah.
They help direct me in the right path, because, man, switches could have flipped in a totally opposite direction, and I'd be sitting in a totally different place than this, I'm sure,
Yeah.
So, I owe a lot to the people who I've surrounded myself with. Talk about a piece of advice, right? Like, just, gosh, you got to surround yourself with good people. If you're surrounding yourself with people who are dragging you down, do
takes
away with
a toll.
They're not friends, man.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So
that's a strong sentiment. Oh yeah. So you got back, you knew it was time to be done with the Army. You had already had your college degree at that point in time, and
actually,
talk about
no, I didn't.
No.
I didn't get my college
you didn't
degree
finish
until I
you
got
got the
back
orders.
from Iraq. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So finally got to finish that, and then
went back to school.
Went back to school after that and finished that out. So,
okay, that's very important. Now that you have seen combat and you have lived the life that you did for 15 months, what was school like?
Oh my gosh, school.
I'm really interested to hear your perception as someone who was aged a little bit.
Yeah, I was definitely a non-traditional at that point, right? I'm probably 20, 22, 23, still not old by any stretch of your imagination. But now I'm a basically like sophomore, junior level, and I'm going into these classes with kids that are straight out of high school. And I just went into education at the time, elementary education to be specific. So I go into these classes, which are primarily female, at that time. So I'm the lone dude in there, sitting down in an education class, and that's where I'm like, ugh, I just, you get an group assignment, and you got these girls are like, hey, you want to come over to my dorm and work on this group assignment? And I'm like,
I can't.
You want to come over to my place with my wife and kind of hang out and work on it? Like, it just, none of it felt right.
Completely different.
It just none of it felt right. Yeah, totally different life. And like, you know what? Why am I doing this? I love physical education. Like, I'm gonna pursue that route instead. And so the physical education field, I don't think there was anything that was ever taught outside of like those general courses that really contradicted with my own moral stuff. You hear there's a lot of stuff that is taught nowadays that does conflict with that, but with physical education, that really wasn't the case. So as far as the studies and stuff, and I wasn't living on campus, I'd go to class, I really wouldn't talk to anybody, and then I'd come home and I'd to my house with my wife.
Do the daily chores that you got to do. Yeah.
So,
so were you working at that time as well?
Yeah. So when I got back from the Egypt deployment, I purchased a seamless gutter trailer and business from United Building Center in Manchester, Iowa. So I bought that business from them with the money that I'd saved up from that deployment, and that's what I did. I did seamless gutters, I did roofing, I did siding, and I had 2 people who I employed, and I did that. Usually I would just do full-time during the summer, and then I'd pick up jobs during the school year as they came up, and then during the winter months I'd just take off and focus on my studies. So that was the working that I did. I did construction stuff through the summers and had a blast with it. Another learning experience. But
hell yeah. For you to have that mindset at that young, I'm sure you had. I had friends who got a Camaro at 26% interest with their deployment money.
Right, and that's what you want to do.
Or tats.
That's what you want to do, right?
I mean, I did some of that dumb shit too.
Yep.
But to have that hindsight to, well, I guess I'm going to be an entrepreneur. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, and again, it was the people around me.
Yeah.
It was...
Spoke into your life.
Oh, absolutely. It was my dad. Like, I didn't seek out this business. My dad said, hey, Josh, you got some money right now.
I know about an opportunity. And it was just me stepping out on a limb and doing it. That's what that was. I'm a good follower. Like, I'm a good doer. I'm a good grunt guy. As far as a leader, sometimes I struggle in those leadership positions because I just want to do. And when people aren't able to just do, it drives me crazy. Frustrating.
And I don't know how to lead them because I'm a person that just does. So now I think as a teacher, I got into the teaching field like, hey, I'm gonna get into teaching. They're just gonna see me work hard, and then that's gonna inspire them to do it.
How's that worked out? Is that how it works?
That does not work, Nate. Man, can you believe it doesn't work? But that's honestly what I thought. Like, if I work hard, they're gonna be like, well, my teacher's doing it. My leader's doing it.
Yeah.
Because that's how I respond.
Right.
Like, if I see somebody, especially in the military world, those are the leaders you want, right? You see somebody who's willing to lay down their life, willing to get in that action, who is your leader, the one you're supposed to be doing it, and they're out there doing it. Like, oh man, hair standing on it right now, just thinking about those type of men and women that do that. And for me, I get into the school system and these kids don't do it, and I'm like, well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Now I have to be able to communicate. I'm not really an efficient communicator. I just want to do. So I struggle with that, and I still struggle with that. And heck, if you brought my students in here, they'd tell you. Like, I apologize a lot. I'm like, hey guys, listen, elephant in the room. I am sorry yesterday for going off. And listen, just so you know, people don't deserve to treat you that way. You don't deserve to be treated that way. And if it happens again, somebody needs to call me out on it.
Yeah,
'cause that's not the way this works, And I try to be. And I think it builds that camaraderie with the students too. But yeah, I'm not a great leader. But
well, hey, you need to have that insight if you ever plan to get better. Nobody's perfect at anything anyway, Josh.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you can, like people say, are leaders born? No. Or are they developed, right?
Yeah.
And I really do. The further I get in life, like I'm a much better leader now than I ever was. Got a long way to go.
Yeah.
But I've learned a lot, and it's made me into that. So.
Oh, yeah. Just being able to apologize and say you're wrong with those kids on someone who some people don't even see that as an equal level. And you to be able to treat them like that, you're going in the right direction if you ask me, Josh.
Thanks, man.
So you love it? I would love it. Do you ever take the dodgeball and just fucking whip it as hard as you can, dude? I mean, I am that guy. I'm so freaking competitive. I don't know if I could turn it off, Josh. And I know you are. I've seen
You
some
can't
shit.
turn it off. So I don't know if I might.
You ever broke a nose at just high school? But,
I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for this. I'm going to say it anyway, though.
Okay.
So we've got all kinds of competitive games. And yes, dodgeball is one of them that
I know. I love it.
you got to offer something different nowadays, though. You can't just say, all right, everybody in there, we're playing dodgeball. It's like, hey, for those of you who want to play dodgeball, we're going to come up to the resting room. It's going to be intense. If you get hit in the head, those count. Like, that's part of the deal here.
You're still out, bro.
Yeah, you're still out.
No freebies.
Like, and if you don't want that, out here, we're shooting hoops, right? You can shoot hoops out here. This is your free day.
Yeah.
And this does not happen often, all right? So any PE teachers listening right now, I'm not a roll out the ball type of guy. This is like an incentive thing that we offer, okay?
Yeah.
So we get up there, though, and I'm taking those shoes off. I'm getting in there with the kids and throwing that ball around for as long as I can through the day. I mean, 8 periods a day, you do it all day.
It's a lot of work.
You're going to go home with a sore arm afterwards, and I've been through a couple shoulder surgeries. I don't want that anymore. But
awesome.
But yeah, we'll get up there, and it's so hard to turn off that competitive spirit.
Yeah.
But we do other games like badminton and pickleball, and we get up there, and I've always got a fresh pressed $100 bill, and I've been teaching for 12 years, and I'll slap that thing up on the stage, and I'll say, all right,
bring it.
Anybody who wants it, been here 12 years. You guys,
nobody's got it.
Yeah, nobody's got it. So
that is
let's
awesome.
So
that is awesome. A challenge to the future.
And the kids love it. They love it. It's just fun. And somebody's going to win it one of these times. And I say, after somebody wins it, no more betting for Mr. Zook. It's just yours, and I'm done.
Hell yeah, I love that.
I'm not getting any younger. So
no. That competitive nature is what is needed, especially in the realm of what's going on in the world today. And children need love. Children need to be active. Children need to see good role models, Mr. Zuck. So I appreciate the hell out of that, dude.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah. The only other thing that I'm going to ask of you is reintegration. As far as now, we have been out of combat for years.
Right.
What's that look like for you? Do you have tough days? And I appreciate your authenticity.
I'm human. Oh, absolutely. Tough days. I mean, I remember leaving Iraq, and, we know we're going to stop at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, and we know we're going to be there for 2 weeks. And all I'm thinking is, what a joke. We're going to go somewhere for 2 more weeks. Like, just get us home. Why do we got to go there? And they tell you the reasons, like, hey, we're talking about PTSD. We're talking about suicide. We're talking about how do you integrate yourself? Like, you're going to be a different person. And I'm sitting there just kind of letting it go in one ear, out the other. I'm like, man, you don't know me. I came back from deployment already, Egypt, and I was not a different person. This is not me. I'm not a different person. And then you go through it, and you get home, and you got a honeymoon phase. And you know what? You're doing well, right?
So
it's great.
Good.
Told you,
So
I'm not
good.
a different person.
Yep.
And then stuff hits the fan. And I tell you what, when you're driving in the middle of the night with your sister and your brother-in-law and your wife by your side through the great state of Arkansas, and somebody's tailgating you, and your response overseas is to wave a flag, shoot a flare, shoot to disable, then shoot to kill, and you got somebody behind you doing that at home, and you're 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks removed from being overseas, what's the next best thing? You keep driving, you stop in the middle of a bridge. You get out of the car until your wife drags you back in and says, Joshua Lee Zook, what are you doing?
Yeah, dude, it's hard to hear
You
that
are
crap.
still on active duty. Like, what? You're going to get in trouble so many ways. Get back in the car. And this is a true story. And that was me. Like, oh, crap. I have changed. My wife and I have been married for 15 years. 15 years, I can honestly say I've raised my voice one time at my wife. One time. We try to live drama free. And that one time was within 2 months of being home from my Iraq deployment. I don't even know what the situation was about. All I remember after the fact is look in her eyes of fear. She was scared of me.
Makes you feel like shit. Real quick. Not who you're trying to be, huh?
At the time, we're going through counseling with a priest for a wedding. I remember one of the questions being like, have you ever been afraid of your husband? And I couldn't shake the fact of that incident. We were standing outside of my storage unit. I was getting ready to wrap up for the day, putting things away, and she, who knows, I can't even remember. She probably brought me something nice like she always did, like a meal or something. And something she said for some reason or another triggered me. I had a tape measure in my hand. I threw that tape measure so hard at the side of my trailer, it busted my trailer. The tape measure completely busted apart. And here I am, and here she is to pick up the pieces. Like, what is wrong with me? I would get so triggered. And I still, like we talked about a little bit before this, like I'm still trying to find the person that I was before deployments because, man, I love that guy. He was a good guy. He was a wholesome guy. He would do anything for anybody, and I still will. But sometimes when stuff happens and I get so emotional about it, it's hard. And I have to remember, like, Josh, this is, and I don't know if it's PTSD. I don't know what it is, but Nate, I haven't talked about this stuff with anybody, with the exception of right here. I think people see you. I think an outsider would probably see my life and think that I live a pretty easy life, and I do, but I don't have any battles. But I do.
Yeah,
I have those battles, and unfortunately, it happens to the ones you love the most a lot of times. But you know, I'm 15 years removed from deployment, and I need to call and talk to people still.
Still days.
Yeah. This conversation that we're having right now, part of the reason that I said yes to this thing that's so uncomfortable right now.
So uncomfortable, dude. Right? I apologize. This stuff's hard.
Part of the reason I said yes to this is because I tell my kids every day, like, you need to push yourself to be uncomfortable, right? You need to step outside your comfort zone to become that better person. And then they see me living my comfortable life, waking up, having my breakfast, going and teaching PE, offering $100 to anybody who can beat me in badminton.
Knowing you're going to win.
You know when I'm going to win. Comfortable life. And I don't ever step outside that comfort zone. And so, you know, for my kids to be able to look back at this and say, you know what, Dad stepped outside his comfort zone on that one. It means everything to me. The stuff that we see on deployments, though, most of them aren't ever appropriate to talk about with a civilian, right?
Right.
You're not going to talk about the things that we see, the things that we do, because it's just not appropriate. You know, I'm kind of reminded of that ending scene of Black Hawk Down. I don't know if you've seen Black Hawk Down.
Yeah,
Hoot.
You have
Hoot
to.
at the end. You know, people ask me when I get back home, why do you do it, Hoot? You some kind of war junkie? He's like, you know what I'm going to tell them? Nothing. They don't understand. And I think that's kind of the mantra we have, though. Like, you know what I'm going to say? Nothing. But we got to get away from that.
100% agree.
We have to say something. And I know you've lost brothers. We've lost more brothers back home stateside that we lost in war.
100%.
And
it's got to change.
Because we're not willing to talk about it.
Right.
Like that's gotta change. I've had so many of those kids who I was deployed with, and I say kids because we were all kids. They call me and say, Zuck, how are you doing this, man? Like how are you seemingly living such a normal life after the stuff that we saw? Because you know, if you ask me,
some aren't.
No,
some are not.
You asked me, like, what are some of the things that I remember about Iraq? I remember the smells. Like if I smell something back home, some burning tires or something, I remember the sights. I'll drive under an overpass sometimes and I'll see outlines of images hanging there. You see those things. And you see the kids out there kicking a makeshift soccer ball around with bullet-ridden buildings around them, having fun like they're out on the playground. Right here in Jessup, Iowa, same kids just kicking the ball around. Like, you want to talk about perspective. You know, those kids, they live that stuff every day of their lives. And to pass that on to my own kids, like, hey, you got it pretty good, guys.
Yeah.
You know, but gosh, those are the lessons, the things that are kind of tough to deal with when you get back home. And the things that just need to be discussed for sure. You know, you need somebody to talk to. Luckily, I had a father who was in law enforcement, and he was the one guy that I could confide in. He was the one guy that I could offload on. And in return, he's told me a lot of things about his past that I had no clue about. And to see how strong he was for us kids with all the stuff that he was battling gives me hope.
Hell yeah.
Had I not talked to him through those issues, zero hope. Zero hope. We all, no matter how well somebody from the outside looks like they may be living their life and how well they have it under control, I can promise you, the people who have the best lives from the outside, they are struggling with more than you could possibly imagine. Because you know why I know that? That's a human being.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then you're some kind of psychopath.
Right. It's not real.
It's not real.
Yeah. 100%.
So,
100%, dude.
Yeah. That's the integration process for me though, since being home. Struggle, get back on my feet. Struggle, get back on my feet. Go home feeling like crap about myself because of something I said. Pull yourself back up. You can do better. Get back on your feet. And
hell yeah.
Prayer, faith life, biggest things that I lean on. My mom will call randomly, even right now. She's like, Josh, I just want to say a prayer with you. You just kind of didn't seem like yourself today. I'd like to say a prayer. So
the strength of people to care about you enough to realize something's wrong and say something. The time for bystanders is gone. Like, if you don't have somebody to talk to and you're a military veteran, here's two. I mean, I can't lose anybody else, dude.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So I appreciate your authenticity on that. It's hard as hell.
So hard.
Some days.
So hard. And I see it in your eyes right now. And
it's tough.
Oh man.
Yeah, dude. I've been there. But it gets better. It gets better.
Absolutely gets better.
And especially when you take the opportunities to chat with your brothers about it, chat with people that have been through that and felt those same feelings as you, so that you can understand how and why.
Yeah, and I've heard your story. I've heard your story with your struggles and your battles, and I have so much more respect for people who are able to go out on a limb, talk about those things, and then better themselves because of it. Gosh, that builds character. Builds so much character. You do. Oh, you're doing awesome, man.
I appreciate that.
Look, you own this studio now, right? This is great.
We're getting there. Hell yeah, dude. Well, we're running out of time here.
Jeez, already?
And I know I could chat with you all day, Josh. That's what I love about getting together. And November is so special for me, getting to feature military members. Of course, November is not the only time that I'm going to talk to military vets, but specifically take the time. Remember the sacrifice, the things that have been done for freedom. Freedom's not free, despite our thoughts on it. And we have it. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. So it came at a cost. And if we can highlight some of those things and help the people behind reach a hand back, I think it's a worthy cause.
I love it. Love it.
Hell yeah. This episode of The Firing Range was brought to you by Joe and Brittany Wilson of Vine Valley. They're licensed separately with over 30 years living right here in the Cedar Valley. Even if you don't want to buy or sell, you just want to check your options. You want to know what interest rates are doing. That's a key one these days. You got to contact Joe and Brittany. Call Joe at 319-486-8115 or Brittany at 319-230-6922. I appreciate all your help making the podcast possible, Joe and Brittany. Without any further ado, Josh, you ready for the firing range?
Oh, man, I've heard a lot about this.
They're not going to be too tough for you.
Okay, I hope I don't make the wrong decision here.
Hell yeah. Let's go. Well, we will judge you. So with your latte chai, are you picking riding in a Humvee or a Bradley?
Oh, Humvee.
Vegetable omelet MRE or the chili mac MRE?
Oh, vegetable omelet.
Basic training or AIT?
AIT.
Deployment or home station?
Home station.
Are you running or are you biking?
I'm biking.
Hell yeah, you are. Ice hockey or street hockey?
Ice hockey.
America the Beautiful or Born in the USA?
Ooh, Born in the USA.
Hell yeah. Hamburger, hot dog?
Hamburger.
Summer or winter?
Winter.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm an early bird.
And are you taking the Josh Zuck of the past, the Josh Zuck of the present, or the Josh Zuck of the future?
Oh, easiest one yet. Future, man.
Hell yeah, dude. In all seriousness, I appreciate you coming on here, sharing your story. I first heard you speak at a memorial ceremony in Manchester, Iowa, a long time ago, and I was blown away by your character, dude. For real. No bullshit. I appreciate you coming on the podcast,
hey,
Josh.
It's been an honor, man, to have this platform, to get the message out. I hope somebody takes something from it, and if not, it's been a lot of fun, man.
Hell yeah, I appreciate it, dude. Hell yeah. Special thanks to my friend Katie Hine at Mattress by Appointment, Cedar Falls, for her sponsorship of Season 2 of The World with Nate.